Yeah. So why should people invest in ItSafe?
Well, everybody says, I wish I would have bought Apple when it was small. And here's an opportunity for people to get involved in a company with morals that wants to change cybersecurity globally for the good. Where else are you going to get stock at $13 a share that's looking to change cybersecurity globally before it's big as Google is today?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. Today we're here with Albert E. Whale of ItSafe, a renowned author and also an expert in the field of cybersecurity. And today we're just going to talk and see what he's up to. So, Albert, tell me about yourself. You have a lot of accolades behind you. Tell me about some of those.
Well, thanks, Dwayne, for inviting me. The accolades, these back here, is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Those are certificates and recognition for my work in cybersecurity. I've been working in cybersecurity exclusively since 9/11 and was actively pursuing the September 17th watch list from 9/11. From there, I started the Pittsburgh FBI InfraGuard and started consulting for the national critical infrastructure on what security was and how to protect themselves and how to improve security for the infrastructure, as well as my clients. I've done work with the VA, saving them $1 million in 6 months. I've taught the Air Force what software security was, keeping the drones up in the sky. And I've worked with global banks to help them identify how the attackers are getting inside their software through their networks to control their systems and grab their money.
Wow.
So it's been an extensive ride. And recently I created and published the book Hashtag Hacked. I have a copy back here. Hashtag Hacked talks about tips for businesses and individuals to protect their personal information. I won an award for that book, and I will be releasing the second edition, Hacked 2, October 4th, so be on the lookout for that, with 12 additional esteemed cybersecurity professionals.
Wow. Yeah, I've always said that sequels are better than the original, so I look forward to reading that book.
Well, you should read the first one, too, because it talks about and preps you for the sequel. I always like the original because it gives you the storyline of what is really going on, right?
Well, for movies...
The original Star Wars was always the best Star Wars, wasn't it?
Yeah, but the original Star Wars was Star Wars 4. So... But anyway, yeah, that's very interesting. You have a very interesting background. So as far as getting involved in or getting started around September 11th with the September 17th, those attackers, they were physical attackers, and they hijacked the plane. What does that have to do with cybersecurity?
Well, the whole idea there was I was building the internet at that time for telephone companies so that they could sell and provision connections for their subscribers to gain access to the internet. And what the FBI needed assistance for at that time was doing discovery on the September 17th watch list using the internet, which a lot of people at that time didn't have a lot of experience in. Since I was building connectivity for phone companies to become, internet providers, service providers like Verizon and Comcast and different carriers out there, I was one of the experts in the field.
Ah, very interesting. And then you said you helped the Air Force to figure out how to keep their drones in the air and prevent cyber attacks there.
Yeah, at that time I was working with a company called Cigital.
Okay.
Cigital actually built the first tools that do static code analysis, which then later became HP Fortify. Cigital had a contract with the government to teach what software security really was. And protecting your applications from attackers and adversaries, such as the Iranians and the Afghanis that actually hijack GPS signals to make the drones fly 150 miles out of their way, thinking that they were in a different location to land, was what was allowing them to steal that technology. And what we were trying to do was show them how easy it is to break these applications so that the attackers can get inside their software and take over the systems themselves.
Oh, wow. So does this have to do with encryption and cryptography, or is that something else?
That is something else. That is also cybersecurity. However, one of the biggest things that you need to be aware of is you can't use technology to protect encryption. Encryption is something that keeps the casual observer from accessing the data. Persistent and nation-state actors that have access to advanced technology, for instance, multiple GPU systems, and now coming out quantum computing, allow, what are we calling it today? Allow the classical encryption technology to be broken in seconds.
Yeah, that's always been a big concern with people in the cryptocurrency community, quantum computing, because right now it's one of the most secure ways to secure anything. But like when quantum technology becomes popular in like next 2 or 3 years, then it's not gonna be as popular. And what would you advise people who have all their life savings in crypto? How would you advise them to, defend themselves against the incoming quantum threat?
Well, the old saying goes, you can't hack paper. Technology allows and provides access to both the actual user as well as the adversary from anywhere in the world. So unless you're guaranteeing that the technology that you're employing cannot be broken, and I don't know anybody that's doing that, and if they are, well, wow, why are they doing that? Then I would not place all of my eggs in one basket, as the saying goes. If you want to dabble in cryptocurrency, that's one thing, but be aware that you don't have access to the source code, and you don't know who wrote the software, and you don't know how well it's tested. And blockchain is one thing, but that doesn't mean that it's not tamper-proof. It certainly is more tamper-resistant. But if I'm able to attack and get into the resources that are in the blockchain pool, then I have access, to the information just as much as a regular user might.
So you made a distinction there between tamper-proof and tamper-resistant. Could you go more into the differences?
Well, tamper-resistant means that you just can't. You don't have immediate access. You have to do some manipulation of whatever access you have to get further into the network. Tamper-proof means that no matter what you do, you can't get inside the environment. But tamper-resistant means that if you're going to try, then there should be footprints and signals about access going on that is malicious of some sort, so that you can identify these activities and block them. But how many organizations are doing that today?
So, going back to what you said about cryptocurrencies, the conversation revolving quantum technology has been, going on for a while. And some people say that the ability for quantum computers to break cryptographic encryption is a little overblown, because even if it's capable, it doesn't mean that it actually can do that. And to date, no quantum computers have been able to break any blockchain encryption, unless you know something different that I don't.
Are you sure? I do know that quantum computing takes what classical computers can't break in 10,000 years and makes access to it in under an hour.
Okay. All right. Well, I believe you. I'm just saying, to date, that hasn't happened. Although that is a possibility.
Oh, it has happened.
It has? Okay.
Oh, it has happened.
Cool. Could you talk more about that? How has that happened, and at what point in time?
There are several organizations that have access to quantum computing. Most of them are governmental resources. And other than that, I don't really want to get into the weeds as far as who has this technology.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
The best protections all around are better security and not necessarily encryption technology, because encryption is a algorithmic process that can be broken. You're using technology to protect technology, and technology can break that technology.
Cool. Yeah. No, no arguments here. No arguments here. It's just I wasn't aware of a time where, because the reason why blockchain is so valuable and Bitcoin is at around $20,000 is because that trust has been built. That to this point, no one has been able to actually hack the chain. They've been able to hack other exchanges and get that money from the exchanges, but they haven't been able to hack the chain directly and get the money. Okay. I'm not disputing. You're the expert. I just want to put that out there. But moving on. So as far as your first book, Hacked,
Hashtag hacked.
Hashtag Hacked. Tell me about some key moments in that book, so everyone can go out there and support it. It's on Amazon.
So Hashtag Hacked talks about my journey, starting with the Navy and going through college as an electrical engineer and building the internet, about how is technology built and what cybersecurity solutions are out there for organizations to implement. I go through various models of network security and software security and discuss how some of these are employed, because I get asked often, how do I get involved in cybersecurity? And since we have a shortage of about 5 million experienced cybersecurity professionals, the goal of Hashtag Hack was to help make it easier for organizations to not only understand what cybersecurity is and possibly how they can implement security in their environment, but to also make it available for additional students and people coming out of school to get started in cybersecurity.
Right.
And I also talk about my tools that I built, It's Safe. It's Safe is built by my company, IT Security Solutions, which we're also doing a crowdfunding for to launch the product globally. So most of what goes on in today's society is not being blocked by firewalls and virus scanners. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And what we're seeing is they're about 4% effective.
What's
The reason
4% effective? Could you specify?
firewalls and virus scanners,
Okay. And why is that?
the reason why is that they're tuned to see tomorrow's threat. And they only look for known threats. So if something's built in, it's invisible to the tools that you're using to make them more secure, because they can't see it. If a zero-day threat was used last week and gave the attackers access to your environment, you wouldn't have seen it occurring. And by the time it becomes a known threat, the attacker has already removed the threat from the environment, so the tools will never see what's going on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yep.
So the way that we've been doing cybersecurity for so long is wrong.
Okay.
I'm not saying we should stop doing cybersecurity at all, but I think that a change is required in order to improve cybersecurity and keep the adversaries and the attackers outside of our systems. And that's why I built It's Safe.
Okay. So let me kind of go over what you just said. So pretty much the firewalls and security tools that we have installed on our computers, they're about 4% effective because they're looking for an attacker of tomorrow, while maybe an attacker was already able to install some sort of like virus before you got it installed, and now it's unaware that it's there. Is that a correct assessment of what you just said?
It's a fairly accurate synopsis. I mean, if an adversary got inside your environment yesterday, and they used a zero-day threat, which only gets identified today, you're not going to know that they're inside.
Okay. So could you define zero-day for those of us who aren't super familiar with these terms?
Absolutely, and I go through this pretty well in the book itself, but a zero-day threat is an exploit that's developed to break technology that will allow an adversary to get inside. And they do that with either malware or a Trojan or some other attack vector. Now, until it's identified how an adversary got inside, it's called a zero-day.
Okay.
When it becomes defined, it's promoted through a government database of all the known threats and all the tools that work out there, whether it's McAfee or Norton or any other virus scanner for your computer. They all go to the CVE database, which is a government resource that hosts all the known threats. Before it becomes a known threat, it's an unknown threat.
Okay. And that's what makes it a zero-day attack.
Yes, because it's not yet identified.
For sure. So I remember in the early 2000s, I used to mess around on my little PC, and every once in a while I get a virus on my computer, and it was always strange to me that these viruses, they'll like stop my computer entirely, but they'll suggest like a virus solution. And I thought that was kind of good marketing, because they'll like infect your computer with a virus and then suggest a solution that you can pay for $50 to get rid of it. So,
well, there was a time when you would find some malware bytes or some other malware tool, because malware is different than a virus, right? Mm-hmm. They're both malicious software, but you would find these malware tool removal kits that would identify if a competitor's tool was on the computer, and they would call the competitor's tool malware as well. So they would try to remove the malware tool that you had and identify it as malware, and there was a big contention back and forth. But it's all, what do you call it, three-card Monte game, or, the pea underneath the cup. It's a shell game.
For sure.
Trying to get your money for something that really doesn't work.
So this brings
That's why we built It's Safe.
So, okay, I want to talk about that as well. But this brings me to the question, like, because our politicians aren't really that technologically savvy, like, they aren't really aware of these underhanded marketing tactics, so they can't make laws to prevent it. Is there some sort of, like, council, like, in your world that is bringing up these issues to politicians so they can, legislate against it?
So, first of all, I don't think that the government is ready or prepared or interested in legislating this, all right? Mm-hmm. They have always said that the internet is a free-use community, but it's kind of like going to the Bowery. You don't take your family to the Bowery because it's not a safe place, right? And that's why businesses invest heavily in security technology, even though some of it may not be doing the jobs that they want it to be doing. What's going on, though, is freedom of choice. And the ISPs that you're connecting to don't want to restrict activities that you're going to, because that's removal of your freedom of speech.
Okay.
Free press. And that's a problem, so that the government doesn't want to restrict what can happen and or occur in order to get things to happen there. Sorry, I think I had a meeting.
Okay. Well, freedom of choice is very interesting, because at the same time that the government doesn't want to do anything about, our security, and they're leaving it up to, I guess, the business to handle that, and competition to work that stuff out in the market capitalism. At the same time, they're regulating, like, cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and opponents of that say that, cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is just pieces of code. So if you're legislating against pieces of code, then you're, infringing on one's freedom of speech. How do you react to that statement?
Well, I don't know that they're really regulating Bitcoin. I think they might want to tax it, but I don't know that they can really regulate it. I don't think that they're regulating code. They are taxing whatever you buy, okay? Mm. But they're not telling you that you have to buy tool XYZ in order to use the internet.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to move on into something that I don't know, because I know a lot about cryptocurrency, but, like, here I have a cybersecurity expert, and I want to learn. I want to learn some stuff about cybersecurity, and, like, what can we do in order to, improve our security when we're online. Like, for example, there's a myth that Apple doesn't get viruses, but Windows, you're going to get a ton of viruses. Is that true? Because so far, to me, it's been true. Like, I haven't gotten a virus on any of my Apple products, but on Windows, it's just viruses as soon as you open up the web browser. Is that correct, or am I living in an illusion?
Well, these are not the droids you're looking for, Dwayne. Technology in itself is hackable. And while it may be true that Apple is more resistant to attacks, it is not immune. Okay? What they do is things a little differently, but they're not completely immune to any viruses or things of that nature. And on any given day, you can see attacks on Apple computers globally.
Okay. Now, is that...
They don't happen as much as on Windows computers, obviously, but they do happen.
Now, is that...
the problem is you're probably not going to see it.
Oh, okay.
Refer back to my previous comment about 0-day known threats and 4% effectiveness.
For sure. Yeah. Now, is that because of, like, is that because the user is downloading malicious software, or is it because, like, Apple has a few defenses in place that prevents malicious software from infecting their machines?
Do you use the internet?
Of course, we're on the internet right now.
Right. The problem is, when you go out onto the internet, you can't see the attacks that are going to happen to your computer while visiting a page.
Mm-hmm.
The attackers know how to craft their scripts and their malware to infect a system by hiding the information inside images and making it so that your computer downloads malicious code because it's trying to beautify the user experience. It's all built around social engineering. Social engineering is hacking the human persona to get further into an environment and a system to expose the
vulnerabilities.
Well, the resources that they're trying to get to.
Okay.
Whatever you're trying to protect, that's what the adversary wants.
Right. Okay. So when they, like, hide these malicious code in images and videos and different things like that, you know, from a software perspective, like, so, like, let's say they hide it in a JPEG, right? And there's this compression algorithm. I think JPEG uses lossy, the compression algorithm. Like, how, like, where are they able to, you know, insert the malicious code during this compression? Like, is it, like, inserted in a container, or is it, like, hidden away somewhere that, you know, most malware detectors won't find?
Well, so a malware detector isn't going to run against every image that you're trying to download on the internet, okay? If it did, you'd never be able to get anywhere, and your computer would be so dogged slow that you would stop using it.
Okay.
But the scripts or the malware is linked inside the file, not necessarily in the image data, but in the container that envelopes the image that the computer reads to say, oh, additional information's over here at Evil Corp, and it goes and gets the information from Evil Corp. Does that help you understand a little more?
That is more understandable. And thank you for giving me the next name of my company. I'm going to call it Evil Corp.
Well, that's been taken by several other organizations. Have you watched a show called Mr. Robot?
Yeah. F Society and all that. Yeah, it's a pretty cool show.
So that was the adversary in Mr. Robot was Evil Corp.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a while, so I just remember the F Society part, and I think, like, one of the interesting parts of it was that once the hackers succeeded in their goals of, like, overthrowing the government or whatever, like, they had so many other issues to deal with they just didn't count for. And I think that is a pretty good warding against like kind of a utopian mentality that like just because it sounds good to overthrow the government and live freely doesn't mean that that's necessarily how that's going to happen, and if that's even a good thing. So that was pretty interesting. So as far as like bots, we hear a lot about bots on people's computers. Like, how do bots work? I've always wondered.
How do bots work?
Yeah.
Well, bots are programs that the attackers use to control multiple computers at a time to send malicious communications to your machine and the attack machines to send out to their target. So they can do it through one machine or use thousands of computers, to attack an environment and make sure that either they break into it or make the systems unusable. So there's a complete hierarchy of command and control, as well as weaponization and payloads and targets and different technologies that are employed by these attackers because they're organized, mobile, and pretty hostile.
Right.
This is their job. Mm-hmm. So they've developed a technology to do this, and that's what a bot is, and a bot network to organize and gain access to their target.
Now, as far as It's Safe, do you guys have products or services in place that prevent, bots from doing this? As with your subscribers, with your clients?
Yeah, we actually sit inside the environment. We're not going to stop a DDoS attack. That's from the outside of the environment. But what we're going to do is stop computers that are connecting to a command and control network, which are identified, and we'll break that communication link so that they can't gain access, they can't get updates to malware, and the attack is virtually cut off.
Ah, okay.
It's like a self-healing network without actually waiting for the IT team to come around and rebuild this server.
So what other best practices could a business do to prevent cyber attacks in their online operations?
Well, I go through 10 inside the book, and I have a website that gives additional tips that your listeners can get onto. It's the Hacked Book, HACKED book.com. And if they sign up with their email address, they'll get the free bonuses right there on the website. There's different groups of suggestions for both businesses as well as personal users, but businesses need to do frequent assessments of their environment and not using the same vendors all the time. Mm-hmm. A lot of what I've seen in the past happen is the IT team says, we've got this. And then a week later, they're breached because they really didn't understand what's going on in cybersecurity, and they couldn't stop the attack because they're unaware. So they need to have resources that are sometimes outside of the organization come through and review what's going on. This is the whole premise for the review by the DoD for any supplier working with the government or the military. We're calling it the CMMC, the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Program. And it used to be that you could do this yourself in your own organization and say, oh yeah, we're done. We got this nailed. But they found out that too many teams were doing a check-the-box exercise and not implementing the security controls which are required to keep an organization protected. So now they've made it so that an outside resource has to come through and secure the information that proves that the business is actually implementing best practices and has a process in place and that they're actually deployed and using it. Until we start finding that the way we've done things in the past doesn't work, we won't change what we're doing to improve it, to make it better.
So part of finding out that the way that we're doing things doesn't work is awareness. But cybersecurity just isn't one of those sexy industries that people talk about all the time. It's one of those.
Well, it's not. But if you get hacked and it costs you $4.4 million per breach, how long can you afford to keep doing that?
Not for long. Well, that was my point. Like that industry doesn't matter until it's too late, right? So
But that's just it. It's kind of like, if you think about it, I got two pictures for you. One is the genie in the bottle. When the genie gets out of the bottle, you can't get the genie back in, can you?
well, I've never met a genie, but I'm assuming no.
Or let's say you don't go to the doctor because you don't want to hear what they have to say, and you wait until you have stage 4 pancreatic cancer that's incurable. Well, if you'd have been going to the doctor doing the things the right way the whole time, they would have discovered it a lot sooner and been able to treat it to save your life.
Absolutely. So we keep hearing like these hacks where, Experian and Equifax and these other companies are losing their customers' data, which is social security numbers and all that stuff. Like, what could they be doing better? Because like everyone is affected by this. So what could they be doing better to better secure their user profiles?
I don't know that I have the ability to evaluate an organization's cybersecurity before I actually look at it, Dwayne.
Okay. Well,
That's kind of like asking me to go and look in my crystal ball or shaking the magic 8 ball and saying, how do I make this better? It's going to come up, try again later, or...
No, I take your point. But I'm sure there's some general. But once again, like I take your point. Like you don't know what they're already doing and what exactly failed. Why they were able to lose all that information.
Most of what we've been doing, though, in the past has all been reactive security. Oh, well, we saw an attacker run a dictionary attack 10,000 times. Well, wait. Why did they try 10,000 times before they got access? Why didn't you stop them after 5?
Correct. Yep.
Preventive cybersecurity is much more effective than reactive.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually have a story on. Like I used to run a website, which was like a social media website, and then one day it was just like running incredibly slow, and I was like, "What's going on?" Right? And then it started going slower and slower until it was like running at a crawl, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm being attacked! I'm having a DDoS attack." So I think what I did is I went into the terminal on the website, and there was some sort of script that I could run that if like the user, if the IP address was like calling it calling the website like within 2 seconds, block that IP address, and I was able to wait off the DDoS attack. So that worked, and I just like Googled it and figured that part out. So I wonder, is there like training that businesses can do that's like super easy, and maybe a YouTube video people can watch to be able to know how to respond when they're being attacked in the moment?
Well, there's certainly training out there. Is it easy training? I've taught the Air Force, and it's taken a whole week to explain 10 attack tips as well as tools on how to discover what's going on. It's not a simple process. Cybersecurity is a complex field which takes into account a lot of different strategies and understanding for technology in order to improve the security of the organization. It's not one YouTube video that's going to do it. We're actually graduating less people in cybersecurity because it is a hard field, but it's very rewarding as well. And we need 5 million experienced cybersecurity professionals, which means we're rapidly growing, okay? But the problem is the adversaries that we have in this world are graduating 3 to 5 million attackers every year, and we're behind the 8 ball now. Wow. So we've got some catch-up work to do, and we need to improve how we're implementing security with the resources that we have to make it a better world for all of us.
So now It's Safe. You are doing a crowdfunding campaign for It's Safe, and could you go into that service and tell us more about it?
Sure. Our technology, It's Safe, is an appliance that sits inside the network. And what we're doing is we're monitoring traffic going into the network and out of the network. So we can identify malicious traffic destinations and targets before it reaches the target destination. And that's the whole benefit of stopping it in the network before it reaches the end node, the target computer that the virus scanners were missing. We can identify resources that are Trojans and malware and things of that nature that are going back and forth every day and block that activity so that it doesn't create more harm in the environment.
And what's your success rate on that?
Well, in organizations where we've been allowed to do an assessment, we've found attackers in every environment.
Wow.
Look, the problem is we're using technology built from a third world country, from a place offshore. They make our cell phones. Who is it? Do you know?
Taiwan, probably.
That's close.
Hong Kong, Singapore, Vietnam.
It's a red country. It starts with the letter C. It ends with the letter A, and it's not Canada, Cuba, Croatia, or Colombia.
It's China. It's China.
So they build our technology, and they've embedded backdoors into just about everything that we buy. And we're assuming that they're secure.
We are.
But the tools that we're using aren't securing them. For instance, the cell phone doesn't have a firewall, doesn't have a virus scanner for the most part. I mean, some companies try to put one on, but we're using these devices to surf the internet. Remember, I referred to it as the Bowery. And then putting on business data on our personal device or our business cell phone, which could have been #hacked.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially WhatsApp. Like a lot of people who use WhatsApp, they get hacked frequently because, when you just share a image on WhatsApp, it enters your photo gallery, like without your consent. It's just there, right? So you can just send the image to an entire group that has malware in it, and then all of a sudden you have access to all these people's phones. And I always wondered, like, why is that so easy? Right? Why is that so easy, and why don't more people ask that question? Like,
social engineering, my friend, and everybody wants these things to do everything for them. So they're downloading every single kind of application that they can from the App Store and then accepting the end user license agreement. A couple of years ago, I was asked for the local news station, KDKA TV in Pittsburgh, about the Face app. Do you remember the Face app?
yeah, it's a deep fake app that makes you older, right?
Yeah, it takes your image of yourself and then turns you older so you can see what you would look like. Like, who wants to do that?
Not me.
But buried in the end user license agreement, you find out that the app is built in Russia.
Oh.
And by accepting the use of the application, you permit them to have access to all of your information, and you hold them harmless, and you can never sue them in a court of law. That means they have access to all of your photos, all of your contacts, all of your friends' information, your contact database, your emails, everything on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how many apps do you have on your phone, Dwayne?
Way too much. Way too much. And I download all these games from the App Store that I barely use, and I'm pretty sure they're all stealing my data. So, I wish
exactly. So delete them. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want to try something out and then you find out it's not for you, delete it.
Yeah,
there's no reason to keep it around.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like these tips are just so common sense, but it's like, I don't know.
But people don't think about them because they're not cyber experts, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's why I wrote the book, to try to bring this to the forefront of their mind and also give them those bonuses out on the website so that they can see this information and say, oh, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I'll go do that. And those are easy things to do.
Mm-hmm.
And don't use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for a password.
Or password. Don't use password as password. Now, like, every once in a while I get these notifications from Experian, because I have Experian, like, watching the dark web for my information to pop up and whatnot. Every once in a while, like, it tells me that, like, my password has been found on the dark web. Like, how does it get there? I don't know. How does it get there?
You want me to walk you through the process of an adversary gaining access to an environment?
If you want, or just like a quick synopsis.
Quick synopsis. They get inside the environment, the healthcare facility, the bank, the credit facility, and they steal everything inside just before they give you ransomware.
Oh. Okay.
They take the data, and part of their business plan is to sell the data on the dark web, while they also charge you to give you back access to your machines because, well, they're locked up and you can't access them. And some businesses are $1 million a day lost revenue. Mm-hmm. The city of Baltimore didn't give up their funding for the ransomware that they had. And initially it was $60,000, but after 3 months, it became $800,000. The whole problem with this process, Dwayne, is that they didn't fix the problem which allowed ransomware into their environment.
Mm-hmm.
So while they may have gotten access back to their computers, they're still vulnerable to threats and attacks that the access for the attackers could still be there. And that's what we see, and that's why we built ItSafe, is to block that activity.
Very cool. Now, as far as ItSafe, if one was to participate in the crowdfunding, like, we'll be able to own stock in the company, correct? And
absolutely. The company is IT Security Solutions. Okay. The website to get access to it is its-safe.com. And on the menu is investment opportunity. It goes to a page in the website that talks about our tool and also the crowdfunding campaign through Net Capital. Net Capital is registered with the SEC to accept your investment and we're offering stock in exchange for the investment at a rate of $13 a share.
Okay.
So Net Capital is allowing individual investors to invest in our company for as little as $104. But for $130, you can get 10 shares of stock, right?
Right. So I asked that question to figure out, like, how do you guys make money? Like, you don't have to tell me anything you don't want to tell me, but like, what's like the monetization scheme?
We have a subscription service. Not only do we sell the appliance, but we have a subscription service for ItSafe, which is currently around $50 per employee per month.
Okay. So $50 per employee per month. I'm assuming that each employee like gets the software installed on their machine, and that way.
No.
Oh no.
We sit inside the network, so the network is connected to all the employees' machines, right?
Right.
Our goal is to stop the bad traffic before it gets to the employee's machine.
Oh, okay.
We're not a virus scanner. Endpoint protection is virtually dead.
Right.
It's too late in the threat vectors, in the attack kill chain. We're trying to stop the attacks before they can reach the target.
Right.
That's our goal. Stop them in the network, kill them before they can get to the target, and you're better protected.
So how would you handle 0 days?
Well, I could tell you, but then I might have to kill you. We don't have an NDA with you right now, Dwayne, so
Right. Yeah.
I can't divulge that information.
Yeah.
It's proprietary.
Absolutely. But you do understand why I asked that question, because like we started this conversation talking about 0-day attacks, and like it.
What I did say earlier was we can tell good traffic from bad traffic, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So now moving forward, like, who's your customer base? Do you have 2 different product categories? One for governments, businesses, or 3 different categories? One's for government, businesses, and personal, or like is it all?
Sounds like you want to be my product manager, doesn't it?
I'm just asking questions. I'm here for a good hour and 10 minutes, so I want to get as much as possible.
Yeah, so small business, we look at organizations that are in excess of $5 million in revenue, and we'll help them out. The Ma and Pa candy store across the street, no, I'm sorry, they're too small and they're not interested in security, right? The gas station owner that has 4 or 5 gas stations, they really need our help because the skimmers are being embedded into their gas pumps and it's stealing people's credit card information. We can certainly help them. The government that has access to vital information that is constantly under attack, we definitely have a plan for them and can help them improve the cybersecurity in the organization, as well as understanding the CMMC security requirements for the defense industrial base. And then consumers. We're coming out with a product for consumers because initially my whole strategy here was to start with the consumers, but I didn't have enough revenue in the consumer model to deploy a cybersecurity tool. And that's kind of why we're looking for investment from consumers to help us gain access to that industry and advance our technology to come out with a consumer product that utilizes what we've developed for business and government resources.
Well, so you are eventually going to release a product for consumer, and that's what a lot of this fundraising is going towards. Is that correct?
Well, the fundraising is to help the company move forward faster with what we have right now And as soon as we can put something together for consumers, we'll do that. Something on a smaller scale.
Absolutely. Yeah. So is it possible, or, yeah, this is a good question. Is it possible to maybe, for you guys to build an app that people can put on their phones to secure Chinese-made devices from, attackers?
No, because our model is to be in the network.
Okay.
If I'm on the phone, that's an endpoint. And we already discussed that endpoint security isn't working.
Okay. Okay. So by the network, could you explain more what you mean by the network?
Sure. I mean, your computer that you're talking to right now is either working wirelessly or through a wired connection.
Correct.
That is the network.
Okay. Okay. All right. So it would be more like you guys are partnering with the router type of thing?
No, we sit right behind the router and before the first network switch. So usually there's a cable that comes from the ISP or the firewall, that's the perimeter defense. And then there's another device inside, and this is all graphically described and pictured inside the book as well. But there's a network switch inside, and there's a cable that goes between the firewall and the network switch. We sit as that wire, watching the traffic go in and out.
That makes sense now. That's how you're able to figure out what's bad traffic and what's good traffic and prevent 0 days because of that process.
Good. I'm glad that clarity is there now.
Yeah, like you helped me get there. For sure. So, is there besides fundraising, do you guys have any ambitions like 5 years down the line? Or yeah.
Our ambition is to change cybersecurity globally.
Okay.
We see this as a global problem, and our strategy is to implement new technology, new processes, new service offerings to improve cybersecurity globally. And that's why we need resources and financing in order to reach that goal.
Yeah, so why should people invest in ItSafe?
Well, everybody says, I wish I would have bought Apple when it was small. And here's an opportunity for people to get involved in a company with morals that wants to change cybersecurity globally for the good. Where else are you going to get stock at $13 a share that's looking to change cybersecurity globally before it's big as Google is today?
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This is the ground floor for that opportunity, and that's why we're offering it to consumers so that they can enjoy the ride and enjoy the benefits of investing.
Absolutely.
Because this isn't a small problem. It's a huge problem. And it's in the trillions of dollars as far as a global environment for spending and or the cost of fines and everything else going on.
So do you have, could you tell me a story of, do you have a cool story about, maybe saving a city or something from a cyber attack or a business or just something cool and crazy?
Sure. So I was doing a show on YouTube. It was called Problem Solved. And one of my contacts had called me up and said, "Hey, Albert, I think I've been hacked." I said, "Well, why do you say that?" He said, "Well, the mouse on my computer is moving around and I'm not driving."
I've been there.
And I saw it go to the Chrome browser settings looking for stored passwords. Now, this contact had an MSP, managed service provider.
Okay.
And what they do is they take over the IT and or security for businesses. And they usually have more than one business as a client. Otherwise, it's cost prohibitive. But small businesses hire MSPs to take over break fix and patching their computers and installing new systems in order to keep them running. And the MSP connects to these corporations through a remote access Trojan that allows them activity and access directly inside the business. But conversely, those businesses have access back to the MSP. There's no cross-checking about traffic going back and forth. And that's another implementation for ItSafe. But attackers want to get into MSPs because now that they get inside one business, they have access to all of the businesses.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So how did you resolve it?
Well, I explained to him what had happened through his remote access to his clients, and it could have been either his systems were breached or one of his clients were breached, and they got into his environment. So we employed ItSafe, and we stopped the attackers.
Now you install ItSafe on the client and not on the MSP side.
Well, we installed it at both locations because here's the problem. Even though the MSP has access back and forth to the client also has access to the internet. So if you don't stop the attacks going to the internet and back into the client, they're going to continue to have access to the client, right?
Yes.
And it needs to be blocked there as well. The firewall and the virus scanner aren't working.
Okay. So ItSafe is a physical product.
Yes.
Okay. That's what I've been trying to get to. Like, I was trying to figure out if it's like a software or it's a physical product. So it's a physical product that you put around the router that controls
Behind
the router that controls incoming and outgoing network connections.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. And you have a subscription model. You also mentioned. Do you sell the product, or is it part of a larger subscription model?
We sell the product, and the license for the software is on a subscription model.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
So if there's Wi-Fi inside the operation, inside the organization, and you connect your phone to the Wi-Fi, we can detect to see if traffic coming from your phone has been breached as well.
Oh, okay. And could you alert that phone of this update, or
You want me to hack the phone that's been hacked? No, we don't do that.
well, maybe you can send them a text message like, "Hey, your phone's been hacked. You should."
So we look at it through the network, and that IP address is different than the phone number.
Ah, okay, okay. Yeah, this is.
But what would the end user be doing if they got a text message that said, "Hey, your phone's been hacked"? What would you want them to do?
I don't know, and I'll probably be a little skeptical. I'll be a little skeptical.
See, that's why we're not doing it.
Right.
What we do is block the attack and then alert the organization that this device is compromised.
Ah, okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But once that device leaves the protection of that network, then it's vulnerable. Well, as long as that device is in like the protection of the network, then it's protected.
Correct.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So your new book, Hacked #Hack2, comes out. When does it come out?
October 4th.
October 4th. You could buy it anywhere that books are sold. And
No, I wouldn't say that. We're going to sell it on Amazon, but we'll have its own book website thehackedbook2.com.
Awesome.
The first hashtag hacked book is thehackedbook.com. Hacked is just like the title, Hacked.
Okay. So, are you going to make a trilogy, like a Marvel cinematic?
I've already had people coming out to me saying, yes, we want another book, and I want to write in it.
That's what's up. But all right, yeah, that sounds good. I'm gonna read both. I'm gonna read Hacked 1 and Hacked 2, and see what we can learn. So as we wrap up, is there anything else that you'd like to promote?
Well, I think that the books themselves will help educate people into what can be done in cybersecurity, and also give them some resources. Of course, my company is available. The tools that we built extend our reach and allow us to help multiple organizations at the same time. It's better than having a consultant, because now you have the expanse of our organization, and what we do is intake the data from multiple organizations and use AI to benefit everybody.
Okay. So there was a recent controversy on the news about some guy who worked at Twitter, and he was supposed to be their cybersecurity consultant. And are you familiar with this? Before I continue, are you familiar with this news?
I heard that there was an employee that was disgruntled.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that he was a cybersecurity person, but a disgruntled employee released what? Passwords?
No. He was in charge of Twitter's security or cybersecurity, and he didn't release anything. He just I think he's suing Twitter. If I got this story correctly, he's suing Twitter because they don't handle their cybersecurity correctly. And I was wondering if you had a hot take on that, but yeah,
I don't. No,
okay.
Not at this time.
Cool. Absolutely. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, so that's probably for the best. But yeah,
You might want to take this section off too.
Probably. But yeah, thank you for this conversation. Sure learned a lot. Everyone who's watching, make sure you go check out It's Safe on
It's-safe.com.
It-safe.com.
ITS-safe.com.
Oh, It's Safe. It's Safe. Yeah. Check out It's Safe.
Hyphen.
And also contribute to their crowdfunding. You'll be able to receive stock on everything on what you buy. And, it sounds like an amazing company. It sounds like you guys are going to be doing some great things. And,
We're changing the world in cybersecurity. Thank you, Dwayne.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for being on our show.
It was my pleasure.